Here we go. So what I'm going to talk about is just epistemology. I'm not here to dig deep. What I wanted to do, and Jim and I talked about this, was sort of lay out at the very beginning or near the beginning of our inquiry today is what is the high watermark, so to speak, for how it is that we know. The truth of the matter is, what I'm going to talk about here is that if anybody here is a professor of philosophy or has been reading philosophy for a number of years knows there's years of thought and research that can go in behind some of the ideas that I'm going to give glossing, passing mention of in this talk. So by all means ask questions and don't think I'm the one who has all the answers. Simply put though, what I want to do is just sort of lay out that groundwork of what are some of the ways that we can know things, what are some of the ways that work, some of them work not so well, and then let's just sort of beat that up a little bit. So some of the boats that I want to float today simply are, one, ignorance, the second is disbelief, and then of course implicit and explicit disbelief, and that delves into the definition for skepticism, and I'll talk about that as well. And then I wanted some more ways of knowing. I'm just going to highlight the top and give you definitions for these. First of all, intuition is one way that we can know things. Authority, tenacious beliefs that exist in our society is another way that we can know things. Faith, rationalism, and empiricism. And then I'm going to leave it up to you, like Arthur did, to just simply decide for yourselves what you think is a better way to know something. But I'm also going to encourage you along the way to perhaps grasp onto some of the, I think, the better ways of knowing things. I don't mean to keep referring to Art, but I think that we touched on, and I think Em is going to come close to this too, we touched on topics that are very close to each other. What we know in the world, or the things that we truly have empirical evidence for, is pretty small compared to the truths that exist in the world, and certainly to some of the beliefs that are out there. I can't even imagine some of the deepest beliefs of some of the world's religions. There's so many religions, there's so many different ways of looking at the world and understanding it. And what I find is that this is of course a Venn diagram, and there is an intersection with tape on it that sort of brings us to a place where we have what is today human knowledge. What I want to talk about is how we get there into that place of human knowledge. So before I go much further in that, implicit, there it is. It's implied, though not directly expressed. It's inherent in the nature of something. I'm explicitly here right now, right? If I were kind of vaguely here, I'd be implicitly here. No, okay. I could be here in thought. It's a implicit disbelief is a disbelief that's not clearly defined or perhaps not clearly enough thought through. And so, you know, if somebody told you perhaps that I arrived here by spaceship, you know, on its face, you know, I have face value down there, you'd go, yeah, right, Jeff, you arrived by spaceship. But let's talk about that for a second. Would you need to do much of a skeptical analysis to disprove my statement that I arrived here by spaceship? Maybe I did. Right? So, is it possible to disprove that statement? Let's talk about that, friend. What do you think?
I think it doesn't matter. You're making the claim. You come up with the evidence.
Well said. Okay. Anybody else?
His answer was better.
I'm going to go back to that, though. Is it possible to disprove? And therein, in that question, first of all, I agree with you, Grant. You know, I'm making the claim. The onus is on me to substantiate it. But the truth of it is, there's a lot of argument that goes into the making of your belief, whether or not it's even possible to prove or disprove that I came here in a spaceship. And if you think for a second, you'll remember, I don't know if you remember Carl Sagan, where he talks about the dragon in the garage.
Yes.
Right? Now Carl Sagan, there's one of Carl Sagan's friends makes the claim that he's got an invisible dragon hidden in his garage. And Carl Sagan goes over there and he basically says, I'm going to paraphrase this because it's not really meant to be a part of what I was talking about today, but you'll get the idea. He simply makes the point that maybe I could throw some flour on the floor, a little bit of flour, and we'll see the dragon's footprints. And oh, no, the dragon floats in there. He says, maybe we could try this or try that. And for every argument that Carl Sagan came up with, the fellow had another reason why that argument wouldn't work. And so in some cases, some statements fail on their face value. We recognize that. But one thing I want to point out is face value has a lot to do with common sense. And we know better than to trust it, right? So face value can have a lot of merit when somebody makes an outrageous claim. But there still needs to be somebody who sits back and does the homework about whether or not we really can argue. What would be the skeptical analysis method that we would use to prove or disprove the claim that I have a dragon in my garage or that I have arrived here by spaceship? Somebody needs to do the math on that. And that's sort of the point. So an explicit disbelief, if I could put it that way, explicit means precisely and clearly expressed or readily observable. Explicit disbelief is a disbelief that can be clearly expressed, and the reasons for disbelieving have been clearly defined, which we never got to. We just didn't get there with my spaceship claim, right? I also happen to think there's a teapot going around the moon, but that's a different story altogether. So scientific skepticism or rational skepticism, and I stole this from Wikipedia because they pretty much hit the mark on this one. And sometimes it's referred to as skeptical inquiry. It's a practical epistemological position in which one questions the veracity of claims lacking empirical evidence. And notice they talk about the fact that it's lacking empirical evidence. In practice, the term is most commonly applied to the examination of claims and theories which appear to be beyond mainstream science. So if I were in the halls of academia right now, perhaps trying to prove or disprove a position, a certain part of the theory of evolution, a small amount about perhaps whether or not we really do have Neanderthal DNA in our bodies, that would not be seen as skepticism per se. That would be seen as Jeff doing research and applying the scientific method. Yes, skepticism is a part of that, but when we talk about skepticism or scientific or rational skepticism, we're talking mostly about claims which lack empirical evidence. And that's really where you'll find a lot of the conversation that happens here today. So that's fine. We can still talk about evolution and those other things. But contemporary skepticism is loosely used to denote any questioning attitude or some degree of doubt regarding claims that are elsewhere taken for granted. And I think you need to have somebody in society has to be the skeptic. A society needs that, and that's my opinion. You have a choice, though, and are you going to be implicitly skeptical or explicitly skeptical about any particular subject? And I think that you'll find as you look around the room, you know, perhaps you're skeptical about spaceships, and you're skeptical about religion. I don't know. But the idea is you're going to find your niche in the skeptical society, and it's important that you find it well. Enjoy it. We don't all have to know every argument for everything that there is out there, but we can certainly do what Jem said and enjoy the journey. We can certainly enjoy figuring things out. I highly recommend that you take a course in research methods from your local university. Now, make sure that it's from a field that's relevant to your interests. Go to school. Get educated. If you like sociology, and you want, like, you know, Arthur sort of comes from the realm of ethics and sociology. If you like that stuff, go take a course in research methods in the social sciences. It's good stuff. I personally love psychology, and that's where I took my research methods training. And there's a point. It matters that you choose the right field if you're going to do your skeptical analysis. And so I'm going to jump now to the Atheist Nightmare, the peanut butter video, and I just want to leave. I'm not finished, but I certainly want you to see this video. And remember, the point I'm making about this video is whether or not this person's skeptical analysis has been done and prepared well from the right field of study. We'll just wait for the projector to pick this up, and then I'll start it.
I would say this.
Here, I'm going to crank up the volume too.
Any theory on the origin of life on the Earth, or any other planet as far as that's concerned, is a fairy tale.
A fairy tale, pure and simple. Life from non-life, apart from God's direct intervention.
Excuse me for a second. I realize the speaker's not even plugged into my computer.
Sometimes that helps.
I was skeptical of whether that was working. There we go. This will be quite a bit louder. So I'll just start it over again.
I would say this. Any theory on the origin of life on the Earth, or any other planet as far as that's concerned, is a fairy tale.
A fairy tale, pure and simple. Life from non-life, apart from God's direct intervention, is a fairy tale. But despite that obvious truth, evolutionists continue to build their supposedly scientific case on a foundation that virtually rules out everything that follows after it.
Evolution teaches that energy, such as lightning or heat, plus matter, can occasionally create new life. Yet our entire food industry rests on the fact that this can never happen. If we examine a jar of peanut butter, it contains matter and is exposed to light and heat. But we never find new life inside unless an outside life contaminates it.
If the theory of evolution was viable, then I should, occasionally, by subjecting this to energy, end up having new life. Now, we go down to the store, and if I open this jar of peanut butter, maybe not often, but on some occasion, I should find new life inside. And so, when we open the jar of peanut butter, we look in there, there's no new life. And aren't you glad? Okay? Now, you may smile at this, but hopefully you'll never forget it, because you and I conduct, collectively, over 1 billion experiments every year, and we've done that for virtually 100 years. And we never encounter new life. In fact, the entire food industry of the world depends on the fact that evolution doesn't happen.
Okay, now, anybody, just in 1 or 2 sentences, please take on that
Well,
guy.
evolution doesn't address the origins of life to start off. So.
Thank you. Evolution, there you go. Jem, go ahead.
Even beyond that, how would you know if there were new life in it? I mean, Laura said, do you expect a troll to pop out?
Go ahead.
He's never opened the incompletely sealed yogurt that I opened that had new life in it. I mean, of course.
Yeah.
The largest recall in U.S. history was because of contamination of the peanut butter.
Oh,
Or
you're right.
new life.
Yeah.
So in that
Yeah.
case, which was it?
How do you know?
Yes,
I
go
don't
ahead.
know.
Just because, let's say it was really, really incredibly unlikely that new life would appear, like Jem said, the fact of it happening for us, let's say, existing, doesn't say that it isn't really unlikely that life would spring up in general.
Yeah, and one more from the back, if you would.
Two quick comments on it. One, what's the courtroom have to do with science? Second being, what does an engineer know about biology?
Thank you. And thank you for that. That hit the heart of the matter. And I no malice to the engineer and author, as we saw there, that they used as a credential. And that, again, I'm not a professor of anything, but I'm still going to present later, and hopefully another SkeptiCamp, I'll present a skeptical analysis of something, and you guys can shoot at it. But what I'll try to do, and I mean this earnestly, is try to stay within the research methodology for that type of skeptical analysis. And I think that's the most important thing that I could bring to this group, that from my experience, is that having been a person who lived outside of the realm of academia for a long time, well, that's not a fair statement. I lived outside of the realm of scientific academia for a long time, and I found that I had no defense whatsoever to that type of argument. I could not sit and say, what is wrong with what that guy said, because he used empirical evidence and all of that. It sounded really good. And so I think part of being a skeptic is to arm yourself.
It's cargo cult science.
Thank you. Thank you. Very well said. So another point I'll make is that this is a very nice picture. How do we define nice? So tell me, just take a second and tell me, I think these are nice pictures. Why are they nice to you?
They're in focus.
Yeah, they're in focus. They have colors. Look, a color. And that's sort of the point, is that in the world of skepticism too, it's important to point out that you have to have something that you can measure, something that you can talk about, some methodology for, maybe there is a methodology defining nice, right? Maybe symmetry is a part of that. I know it is from the world of psychology with regard to the human face. Symmetry plays a big role in our acceptance of beauty, as an example. Doesn't mean we have to make decisions based on that, but the reality is it's there.